Though I've been an AARP member for a decade, my teen years on Long Island have recently come back into focus. I grew up in Franklin Square, where I ran years of cross-country and track and was grateful for graduation in 1968. Summers were spent skipping across the hot sands to the water's edge and taking breaks in the cool shadows under Long Beach Boardwalk. In high school, I drove my battered 1965 Mustang to the beach, filled with friends, listening to the AM radio's tinny tunes of Motown, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Hendrix. Last year, I was diagnosed with cancer, and because I was still in my 50s, it was a shock. The men on both sides of my family routinely lived vibrantly into their mid-80s and 90s, and it was a surprise to think that I would not at least reach 80 plus. Following successful surgery, my first venture outdoors was a slow slog on Long Beach Boardwalk, soaking up the curative powers of sea and sky under the sun of an early spring day. After further recuperation, I suffered a relapse. And by year's end, I was undergoing daily radiation treatments. Driving in the dark before the dawn and treated a sci-fi room with space-age contraptions for 2 months was going to end the problem. Long Beach seemed far away. While awaiting the outcome, I organized a few friends from work to do the Long Beach Polar Bear swim in February. Well, it hardly resembled the lazy days of summer past, and none of us went back in for a second dip. The pictures show us fraternity-like, arm in arm, the sea behind us, and oblivious to the bundled crowd all around. What a day. The results of the radiation report. There was a second relapse, and soon I would have to start my third form of treatment in a year. In addition to stepping up my gym routine, I began to take walks on the Long Beach Boardwalk this spring. It seemed the natural thing to do. Full moons would draw me back to watch the silver shimmers on the sea and observe the necklace of ship lights on the horizon. It reminded me of a night crossing the equator many years ago on a steamer headed for Europe from Portuguese West Africa. The walks progressed to the shore, and soon my pockets were filled with a wonderful assortment of odd bounty. Shells of all shapes and sizes, driftwood twisted in myriad ways, and an occasional bit of glass, sea glass, its edges tumbled and smooth and opaque, like pieces of ancient glass jewelry mounted in some museum. These tiny treasures I would turn over in my hands and reminded of the walks and the waves of Long Beach. This summer, I suddenly switched off WQXR and its quiet classical strains and found myself blaring FM's crystal clear classic rock and oldies on my car's Dolby system. I was coming full circle, listening to the sounds of my youth, but in a different car, a different time, and a different place. As spring slipped into summer, the beach beckoned as never before. I would sometimes leave work early and be swimming at Long Beach while my colleagues were still at their desks. Weekends now included long strolls on the sands and occasionally meeting friends along the way. Still, the new treatments continued, but seemed little of a bother, with the beach now doing its best to help build me up both my body and spirit. The many jets overhead with their foreign markings reminded me of the times in travels abroad and gave me hope that there would be more. When I was in my 20s, I spent 5 years overseas in Africa, the Middle East, in Europe. Beaches and bathing were a constant during those years. Warm waters of the Indian Ocean off Mozambique, the salty confines of the Dead Sea, where you bobbed strangely in the salt-infused water, the black stretches of the Mediterranean, Pool Benguela, currents by Cape Town, and windy North Sea beaches where you walked at your own peril. None had the soft embrace of Long Beach. Recent results show that I am stronger and fighting well the many ills of my malady. It's been a tough time, and one that will probably continue for many years. Behind the marvelous medicines and the men and women who have supported me lies Long Beach. I am confident that I can now reach and possibly pass my family's lifespan. After all, I have the Long Beach cure.